So this session is about the presentation and demo on Metaverse shopping, the future of e-commerce. With the growing popularity of virtual reality and augmented reality, the Metaverse is emerging as a new platform for immersive shopping experience that offer consumer a unique and personalized experience. The session will cover the trends emerging, opportunities and imperatives in the Metaverse-enabled e-commerce space. So yes, I request Ms. Tancha Magas, Chief Strategy Officer and Chief Data and Analytic Officer, Democrane, to the stage with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back in Chennai and see all my old friends, Ganesh, Rajesh, Nestor, and many, many more. If this city continues growing on me, I might as well just move here. So I'm excited to tell you a little bit about the Metaverse and my thoughts on its impact on e-commerce specifically. So if we could kick it off by pulling up my slides, please. Awesome. So let's do a quick pulse check and see where we are in the audience. Give me a show of hands. How many of you have shopped in a physical store in your lifetime? Okay, that's just about everyone. That makes sense. How about how many of you have shopped online? On a website, on an app? Okay, pretty advanced audience, everyone. Now the third question is, how many of you have shopped in the Metaverse? Okay, awesome. What did you buy in the Metaverse? NFTs? How about you? Oh, McDonald's virtual experience, awesome. Anyone else? Nestor, what did you buy in the Metaverse? Virtual land, okay, awesome. Do we have a fourth one? Okay, that's it. So we have about 3. I am hoping by the time we're done with this presentation, more of you will be inspired to shop within the Metaverse. So let me tell you a little bit more about what that would look like. First of all, what is the Metaverse? In general, it's safe to say that the final form of the Metaverse does not exist yet. It might take another full decade to reach its final form, if even then. And it will largely depend on the development of the complementary technologies that will enable it. Now, that's a very vague term then to base a whole presentation off of. So to set the ground, let's define the Metaverse in some type of tangible way in order to guide today's presentation. If you asked me, I would define the Metaverse as the next generation of the internet, as significant advancements in technologies, as well as the adaptation of the virtual world. So if you think about it that way, it's a little bit more tangible, a little less vague, and we can proceed with today's discussion. Now, what about the Metaverse in e-commerce specifically? What would that look like? In a nutshell, the Metaverse would actually allow e-commerce players to create very unique, very surprising, yet functional experiences for the end users that the physical or the 2D or even the 3D world cannot. So now that we have defined the basics, let's think about what's already happening in this space. So you see a lot of names up here. A lot of the leading brands across retail, banking, you name it, have already entered the Metaverse. For example, Gucci launched a bag. It's a virtual bag, and it's selling for $4,100, as much as a real physical bag is selling, and people are buying it. Or let's take Hermes as an example. Hermes launched the Meta Birkin at Art Basel recently, and again is selling this virtual handbag at whopping prices. So there's something in the space that we should look at more closely. What is the Metaverse opportunity as a whole, beyond just e-commerce? According to JP Morgan and Goldman Stanley, we're looking at about $1 to $8 trillion in annual revenues in terms of the market potential that the Metaverse could have in the next 3 years. That's a whopping number. Also, 70% of people globally now know what the Metaverse is. Last year, this was hovering at around only 30%, which means that this term has entered the cultural lexicon and it has become a term we're familiar with, such as Google. Lastly, Gartner predicts that 25%, 1 out of every 4 chairs in this room, will be spending at least 1 hour in the metaverse by 2025. Now, let's look at the potential for e-commerce in itself separately from the metaverse. 2021 saw about $5 trillion in sales volume from e-commerce sites. Obviously, this was hugely driven by the effects of the pandemic. A lot of people were shopping online. This number is supposed to grow to $8 trillion in the next 3 years. Also, there is about 24 million e-commerce sites out there right now that you can shop from. This number doubled since the pandemic at 204% growth. Lastly, the percentage of global sales that e-commerce will account for by 2026 is 1/4. So we will be migrating our shopping practices even more into the metaverse and away from brick and mortar stores. Now let's put the metaverse and e-commerce together and see if this makes a happy marriage. In 2021, there was more than $500 million transacted in the metaverse in terms of retail volume. The 3 of you contributed to that, thank you very much. Also, there is now about 50 worlds in the metaverse that are providing these experiences, such as Sandbox, Decentraland, and some of the other big names I'm sure you have heard of. Now, what does this mean for, let's say, luxury brands? The metaverse could add up to 10% in revenue growth to luxury brands. And it could actually add 25% to their profitability because this distribution channel has a lower cost of servicing inherently. Now, you might be sitting there and thinking, I don't need to grow my revenue, I don't need more money, I'm all good. But that's not good enough anymore. It is actually predicted that you could be losing 10 to 30% of your revenue if you don't adopt to these new digital channels. Now, let's look at some inspiration. What are some of the companies and brands and tools out there in this space that you could walk away with today with an inspiration from? I will start with 3D Looks Your Fit. This is a company that already has a functional product out there, which is super exciting. What's even more exciting is that this product will further advance and become even better. But for now, what they offer is an AR type of experience where you can take pictures of your body as well as input your clothing preferences. And based on that, you can virtually try on garments. And this tool can tell you what size you need. It can show you what the garment looks like in different colors and so on. So you no longer need to go into a store, undress, dress. Your size is not available, your preferred color is not available, your preferred material isn't available, or you don't have to buy online, return, and so on. All of this is kind of done if you just use this simple app. So let's play a quick video to see what this product looks like today.
Are you struggling to find the right size? Do you have a closet full of clothes and nothing to wear? Navigating size charts and using a tape measure to figure out your size is so frustrating. What if you could get the right size for your body and see how it looks on you before buying? Introducing Your Fit by 3D Look. With just 2 photos, Your Fit will recommend the best size options for your body and show you how it will look on you in seconds. Here's how it works. Place your phone on a table or ask a friend to help. Your Fit will walk you through the entire process.
Remove any additional layers for the most accurate results. Pull your hair up and away from your body. Perfect. Stand still. We are all done, you can get your phone now.
Once scanned, your fit recommends the best size for your body and lets you virtually try it on. And if you like what you see, you can share your looks with friends and on your favorite social platforms, all before making the purchase. Returns are a thing of the past, and the planet will love you for it. Fill your closet with great-looking and great-fitting clothes you will love. Your Fit by 3D Look, your very own virtual fitting room in the palm of your hand.
Awesome. So this is a product that's ready to go today. Now just imagine it 10 years from now when there's supporting technologies to make this product even better. Moving on to the next example, we are going to look at Super Gucci, which is a brand collab between Super Plastic and Gucci. What they have come up with is physical products that match virtual products. And this is a super exclusive, super limited edition collab where you can buy an NFT that looks similar to the one on this image, and then you can get that exact same item as a sculpture in the real physical world. So you are toggling, and this is what we call phygital. Next up, we have Coca-Cola's Bite Drink. This one is particularly exciting because Coca-Cola used the metaverse for product development. The idea of the metaverse is that we're all contributing to it and we're sharing our thoughts. Think about how retail works today. You go into a store and you purchase a finished product. No one's really asked you for input. Your preferences might not be met in terms of design, sizing, price, material, and so on. Within the metaverse, the idea is that you could actually share feedback with the brand and help them produce what you want and what you need. So you are involved in the end-to-end process rather than just purchasing the final good. And that's exactly what Coca-Cola did with this drink. They developed it in the metaverse based on user feedback, and then they launched it in the real world. Next up, we have Ouroboros. This is my favorite metaverse fashion brand. They describe themselves, and I quote, as the first fashion house to merge science and technology with physical couture. So you can basically try on their pieces using AR, and you can also go into the metaverse and watch their fashion show, right? So you don't have to get that exclusive invite to New York or Paris Fashion Week. You just go online and you're part of the entire experience. Next up, we have H&M. I'm sure everyone's very familiar with H&M, and they're doing a really, really cool job entering the metaverse. So they recently launched a virtual showroom that looks very, very similar to their physical showroom. And they have other cool features such as going onto the H&M app and picking looks and trying them on in the comfort of your own home, and then snapping pictures of yourselves and actually posting them on social media. And again, a really cool immersive experience, but also exceptional marketing for the brand. So let's take a quick look at the video of what H&M has been able to do with the virtual showroom. Awesome. So we've seen some examples. There's many, many more. Unfortunately, they only let me speak for 30 minutes because I speak too much. However, now that you've seen all of this, I'm sure you're asking yourself, how can I get started? How can I get involved? How is this even applicable to me? Well, the first thing I would say is learn as much as you can. This is happening whether we like it or not, and you should have an informed stance on it, even if that means staying out of the space for now and getting involved later. However, there is a lot of opportunities that this space can bring you. So let me tell you a couple of the reasons why you should get involved. Number one is engagement and community building. You can use the metaverse, you can use technologies to get your brand out there and to connect to users that you would normally never have access to. If you use aspects of gamification, this creates even stickier customer relationships and can enhance your retention, no matter what your product or your service is. Number 2, competitive positioning. As you've seen on one of the previous slides, there's a lot of brands who have actually already entered this space. So now it's a matter of not being left out and being one of those brands that hasn't entered the space. Thirdly, revenue growth and diversification. I already mentioned that the metaverse could add up to 10% in revenues to your top line and 25% of improvement to your bottom line. Don't miss out on this to really improve your P&L. Fourthly, enhance customer experience. As we've seen with some of the examples, you can really use AR and VR to help your customers pick the right product, try it on, and so on. And then lastly, new and improved payment and fulfillment options. In general, in e-commerce, one of the best practices is the more payment options and fulfillment or shipping options you actually provide to a customer, the more likely you are to convert them. And the metaverse only adds on top of that. So consider maybe using cryptocurrencies to let your customers pay for your product or your service. Now that we have covered the why, let's look at the how. Here are a couple of examples, obviously not an exhaustive list. There's a lot more that can be done. And I tried to prioritize these from maybe simplest and easiest done to most complicated so you can get started slowly and really pick the option that works for you and your business. So firstly, as I mentioned, you should have a phygital strategy. And this can be as simple as let your customer actually check your inventory online and then go and pick up the item in store or curbside. And this is already something that is happening with the major online retailers like Amazon, so it's not that much of a stretch. Secondly, you can use VR and AR technology in your store or online. Look at the H&M example. You can have an app where customers could try on the product or basically demo whatever you are offering to them. Thirdly, you could create a clothing line for avatars. A lot of the leading brands that I showed you previously have done exactly this, and it's been a great starting point to get their brand out there and to really get involved in this space. The space is still overflown in terms of gamification, and a lot of these users want to dress well, even online. Fourthly, develop and incorporate complementary digital assets into your brand. Like you saw with the Gucci example. If you produce a shirt in the physical world, why not produce the exact same shirt in the digital world and dress someone's avatar? And that doesn't really cost too much extra, but you really create that sticky relationship with your user that really likes that particular product you have produced. Number 5, use NFTs for authentication. One of the leading reasons this space has really taken off is this ownership structure behind it. NFTs are authenticated to an individual user, and ownership is pretty stable. Luxury brands can use this to their advantage to use NFTs for authentication, and that way drive down the risks of counterfeit items. Then we could also build smart shopping carts. Imagine going to a supermarket, and you have your app with you, and it tells you, based on your shopping list, where the items are available in the store, what is out of stock, if something is out of stock, what's an alternative, what is the price, and so on. So it basically guides the customer through the shopping experience and hopefully thereby increases sales. Number 7, you could use the metaverse for product development. Let's use Coca-Cola's example. You might have an internal team of designers or product managers that are creating your products and your services. But imagine involving the entire global community and really picking those features that have the widest reach. The metaverse is exceptional for that purpose. You could also deploy a crew of avatars to serve as personal shopping assistants. Obviously, we're already using chatbots and so on. But what I'm alluding to here is more human-like avatars that kind of feel real. They're good looking and they're very interactive. And you can ask them something like, I'm going to a wedding, it's on grass, and the color is white. What do you think I should wear? And then feel like you actually have a personal shopping assistant getting you through to that finish line and the purchase. Number 9, you could set up shop in the metaverse. You could literally buy land like Nestor has done, or you could buy a kiosk and display your brand there. So all of the users that are, going for a stroll in the metaverse, they will hear about you. And it's just another advertising channel that you could also turn into a sales channel as well. And then lastly, you could think about staging a fashion show in the metaverse. When the pandemic hit and a lot of the physical aspects of our lives were put on hold, a lot migrated online. This also applied to a lot of fashion brands. They did not want to wait a couple of years to be able to display their newest creations, so they took them online. But they didn't take them online through static 2D videos. They created real avatars that move in a 3D, 4D type of setting, and it's actually spectacular to see. So those are some of examples that you could actually get started with and enter the metaverse with. So now you have heard a lot from me. But the beauty of the metaverse is that you don't just listen and learn. You can actually participate and create. The very essence of the metaverse is that we're all helping shape it as a community, and there is really no central ownership or control. Plus, it's not in its final form yet. So whatever you do now in this space, you are going to have an impact as an individual to the long-term state of the metaverse. So let me leave you with the following question. Which new best practice that I didn't cover myself today will you author before the close of Umagine Chennai, and how will you contribute to the wider metaverse community? Thank you guys so much.
We request the delegates, if there are any questions, we can post it. Thank you.
Hi. So generally we are purchasing things via websites and apps, right? So the products we purchase, we wear it, we use it. So we physically feel it. So the whatever we purchasing in Metaverse, we cannot feel it, right? So how long do you think that will it take for a common man or a general people to experience that virtual feeling, and they generally go and buy things? So how long will you take the transition period?
That's a great question. I think the perception of the utility of an NFT or the metaverse will obviously depend on the individual, and adoption will probably not be 100% across all aspects of our lives. But think about it in other terms other than clothing. Think about it in terms of art. When you buy a painting and it's hanging on your wall, you're not really using it for anything other than just looking at it. Maybe you can touch it too. So what's the big leap from that physical painting on your wall to a virtual painting in the metaverse that is still yours, that's one of a kind, that is beautiful, and that you're proud to own or collect? And then once we start with those smaller leaps, we can go to the bigger leaps of, I am an active avatar, I spend a lot of my time in the metaverse, and I really want to be dressed well, just like I am dressed well in the physical world. And that, again, will depend on the individual, and that adoption will probably take a little more time than the previous example with the art that I alluded to.
I want to start with Meta, because Meta has started or has been working on Metaverse for some time right now. And what I'm trying to feel, or what I'm getting a sense of, is Meta is trying to it's trying to make the Metaverse proprietary or make it private. So shouldn't Metaverse supposed to be public? And because like you said, Coke wanted everybody to contribute to create a product. Shouldn't Metaverse be like that? Like, everybody has to have their hands on Metaverse so that it is a collaborative development, that entire environment has to be a collaborative public, right? So that's my view, and probably if you have I just wanted to know what is your view on Meta's trying to privatize Metaverse?
Absolutely, great question. So I don't necessarily think that Meta is trying to privatize it, nor that they would think that they would succeed. I do think that Facebook or Meta wanted to have a first mover advantage in the space. They initially invested about $10 billion to help build out a lot of the technologies. But at the end of the day, even if they do build out certain technologies, they're not going to work without the bigger ecosystem. And no one single company can actually build everything, nor is the metaverse set up in such a way that that's going to be possible, because there is no centralized ownership structure. The only thing that Meta would be able to succeed at is using their R&D to launch certain technologies quicker to market than their competitors because they're better positioned, and that way obviously increase their top line. But I do think that Mark has been very measured about his stance on the space as well. After this large investment and the rebranding that shook the whole technology world, he did say that it might take up to 5 years for their VR division to even be profitable, and about 10 to 15 years for the technologies to be ready to be commercialized. So obviously they have launched the Oculus Quest. It's selling at a higher rate than personal computers even are at this space. But if there are no use cases for the Oculus beyond gaming, it's not going to see the adoption that Facebook is hoping for. And for that, they will need partnerships and the wider ecosystem.
Hello. Hi, this is Arshad. So, nice speech, by the way. So, my question lies along the lines of what the previous question was. So, as we go forward adopting this technology across the world, so there is still a major section of the society which is still alienated to these emerging technologies. So, still, if you observe, there are close to 300 to 400 million Indians who don't have access to fast internet and mobile phones. So, with the VR headsets and the other hardware being expensive at its front, so still a majority of people will be lagging behind in adopting and benefiting from this thing. So what policies changes do you observe? What are the thought points to be focused on so that we can have an inclusive metaverse and we can have a democratized metaverse instead of having it skewed towards a certain section of the population? Thank you.
Great question. I love this question. So a couple of thoughts. With any innovation, there is a really traditional adoption curve. You have the early adopters, and then you have the laggards that kind of come last. I don't think with the metaverse or these types of technologies, it's going to differ much. What I do think, though, is that the metaverse has this power to kind of jump the hoops in terms of the traditional technological advancement, and thereby really at its height reach these underserved communities from a technology perspective. And I really see that happening already. I am a big fan of, for example, Axie Infinity, which is a play-to-earn metaverse. Most of Axie Infinity's users actually come from emerging markets. These users are using this metaverse as an alternate economy, meaning that they cannot find local employment and they're actually flocking online, where suddenly it doesn't matter where you were born, what citizenship you hold, where you went to school, but if you're a good gamer, you're going to make money. And I love that. It's an inclusive type of workforce model. On top of that, through access to cryptocurrencies and the wallets that they hold, they for the first time have access to the banking system. They're using their cryptos to pay for rent and pay for utilities, where previously they wouldn't have been able to do that because they didn't have a traditional debit or a credit card. So I see the metaverse as really having this potential to upstage traditional systems and governments and technologies and just jump over them to create these inclusive global experiences that are relevant to everyone who wants to participate in them.
Wonderful, thank you.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
So Tanzana, that was actually a very good, presentation overall.
Thank you.
Actually loved it. Myself, Sriram, and I'm the founder and CEO of a startup called Rapogen. We are a metaverse startup based out of Chennai, actually. So my question, which I'm betting on this topic specifically, is that as you mentioned, almost 80 to 90% of the commerce overall worldwide is still retail, and the remaining 10 to 12% is still betting on e-commerce. While there is a huge gap left between the retail to e-commerce transition, why are you betting on e-commerce metaverse, to get into the space right now? retail transition to metaverse will be even more better space to explore, right? Because we have retail stores which have a huge capacity to get a greater footfall, and that footfall might actually turn up people to explore and experience it, right? Taking consideration into the hardware, the infrastructure and stuffs like that, retail transition into metaverse will actually bring a greater footfall, and that will again transform the future, right? Why are most people in the world betting on e-commerce specifically than retail stores? I just have this question. I wanted to ask this question to a lot of people. Since you are specifically picking this topic, I'm just putting it forward to you.
I completely agree with you. I don't have much to add. I would just say that a lot of people are already in the e-commerce space, and we don't want to discourage those, from doing a great job. However, I do think that jumping again to my earlier point from retail to metaverse, rather than just the online presence, is going to be that bigger leap. But to be fair, it again depends on the individual business. It depends on resources and access and knowledge and product and service. And there's a lot of individual considerations that each business has to figure out for themselves in terms of where they can drive the highest ROI. That also doesn't mean that brick and mortar stores will be obsolete. They will still be relevant, because when you're driving down the road, you still want to go to a gas station and pick up a bottle of water and not buy virtual water in the metaverse. Plus, when I get my haircuts done, I prefer to get them done at a hair salon rather than in the virtual world. So there is going to be a world where there is some perfect optimal split between the three different worlds that meet all of the different needs and optimize these use cases as we kind of go along.
Got it. That's a cool answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you, Ms. Tanja Makas, for the presentation and demo on Metaverse. It is a privilege to present the memento for the wonderful presentation. I request Mr. Rajesh to present the memento with a big round of applause, please. Everyone, come on.
So for those of you who probably don't know, that Tanya has flown all the way from Dubai to here to give this presentation to us, to share with us the experience that she has on Metaverse. So let's give her a big round of applause for all the effort that she's taken to us. She's going to be available. Let's use the time that she's here to interact with her, find more about Metaverse. Thank you. So with that, Tanya, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for coming from all the way to be here with us. Thank you.